David Adeyemi had always been the pride of his family. Born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, his Yoruba heritage was deeply intertwined with his Christian upbringing. David stood by the window of his luxurious bedroom, staring out over the bustling city of Lagos. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the sprawling metropolis that stretched out before him. His family's estate, with its perfectly manicured lawns, towering palm trees, and opulent mansion, was a symbol of the wealth and success his father had worked so hard to achieve. The Adeyemi family was one of the most respected and influential families in Lagos, if not all of Nigeria. David's father, Femi Adeyemi, had built a vast business empire with interest in real estate, oil, technology, and several other lucrative industries. His mother, Olufunke, managed one of the family's companies, a chain of high-end fashion boutiques that catered to Nigeria's elite. To the outside world, David had everything: wealth, privilege, and a bright future ahead of him. But as he looked out over the city, his thoughts were far from the world of business, power, and wealth. His mind was filled with thoughts of Amina Bello, a girl from a world so different from his own, that it seemed impossible for their paths to had ever crossed. Yet, somehow, they had met, and his life had changed forever. It had all started 6 months earlier when David, a final-year student at the University of Lagos, had traveled to northern Nigeria for a research project. As part of his economics degree, he had chosen to study the agricultural sector, focusing on the contributions of large-scale farming to Nigeria's economy. His research group had been given the opportunity to visit Kano, one of the northern states known for its agricultural productivity. It was on one of the largest farms in the region that David first met Amina. Amina Bello was the daughter of Alhaji Muhammad Bello, a wealthy and influential landowner who owned vast acres of farmland producing rice, yams, maize, and other crops. The Bello family, although wealthy like the Adeyemis, lived a very different life. While the Adeyemis embraced a modern cosmopolitan lifestyle, the Bellos were deeply rooted in the traditions of their Hausa culture and Islamic faith. Amina's father, Alhaji Bello, was a devoted Muslim and a respected leader in their community. Amina's mother, Zainab, was a stay-at-home housewife who had dedicated her life to raising her children according to the teachings of Islam. David had been impressed by the scale of the Bello family's farming operations, but even more so by the young woman who had greeted them at the entrance to the farm. Amina, dressed in a simple but elegant hijab, exuded a quiet confidence and intelligence that immediately caught David's attention. She spoke with ease about the farm's operations, explaining in detail the different crops they grew, the irrigation systems they used, and the challenges they faced in maintaining productivity. Her knowledge was vast, and her passion for agriculture was clear. As the group toured the farm, David found himself gravitating toward Amina, asking her questions and engaging her in conversation. At first, their discussions were purely academic, focused on the economics of farming and the importance of agriculture to Nigeria's economy. But as the day went on, their conversations began to shift to more personal topics. David learned that Amina, like him, had a deep interest in education and knowledge. She had excelled in school, particularly in science and mathematics, and had dreams of becoming a doctor. However, despite her academic achievements, Amina knew that her family expected her to marry soon and start a family of her own. It was the path that most girls from her community followed, and she felt the weight of those expectations. David was captivated by Amina's intelligence and her quiet strength. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. In Lagos, he was surrounded by women from wealthy families who shared his background, but none of them had the same passion and sense of purpose that Amina had. As the day came to an end, David couldn't shake the feeling that he had just met someone who would have had a profound impact on his life. Over the next few weeks, David found himself thinking about Amina more and more. He admired her for her determination and her ability to navigate the expectations placed on her by her family and community. He realized that he wanted to get to know her better, but he also knew that their worlds were vastly different. He was a Yoruba Christian from Lagos, and she was a Hausa Muslim from Kano. Their families, cultures, and religions were not just different, they were worlds apart. Despite the obstacles, David decided to reach out to Amina. He found her contact information through a mutual acquaintance and sent her a message, thanking her for the tour of the farm and expressing his admiration for her knowledge and passion. To his surprise, Amina responded warmly, and soon, they exchanged messages regularly. Their conversations ranged from discussions about their respective studies to more personal topics, such as their hopes, dreams, and the challenges they faced in their lives. As their friendship deepened, David began to realize that he had developed feelings for Amina. She was everything he admired in a person: intelligent, kind, and principled. But as much as he wanted to pursue a relationship with her, he knew that it would not be easy. His family had strong expectations for him, just as Amina's family did for her. The Adeyemis were devoted Christians, and David's mother had already begun to hint at potential matches for him within their church community. She wanted him to marry a Yoruba Christian girl from a similar social standing. Someone who would fit seamlessly into their world. On the other hand, Amina's family expected her to marry a Hausa Muslim man, preferably from a respected family in their community. The idea of her marrying outside of her faith was unthinkable, and it would likely bring shame to her family. Amina herself was conflicted. She had developed strong feelings for David, but she knew that pursuing a relationship with him would mean defying her family's expectations and risking her place in her community. The more they communicated, the more David and Amina realized how deeply they cared for each other. They found that despite their differences, they shared many of the same values: kindness, humility, a desire to help others, and a commitment to making a positive impact in the world. Their love for each other grew, but so did the challenges they faced. One day, David decided to confide in his mother about Amina. He knew it would not be an easy conversation, but he felt that he couldn't hide his feelings any longer. One evening, as they sat in the family's spacious living room, he broached the subject. "Mom, there's something I need to talk to you about," David began, his voice steady but nervous. Olufunke looked up from her book and smiled at her son. "David, what is it? You seem serious." "I've met someone," he said, carefully choosing his words. "Her name is Amina, and she's from Kano. She's different from the girls you've been talking about." Olufunke raised an eyebrow, her smile fading slightly. "Kano? That's in the north, isn't it?" "Yes," David replied, bracing himself for what was to come. "She's Hausa, and she's Muslim." There was a long pause as Olufunke absorbed this information. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but firm. "David, you know how important it is to marry within our faith. We are a Christian family, and we have strong Christian beliefs. How do you expect a relationship with a Muslim girl to work?" David took a deep breath. "Mom, I know it's complicated, but Amina is an amazing person. She's smart and kind, and we share a lot of the same values. I'm not asking anyone to change their beliefs. I care about her." Olufunke's expression softened, but she remained resolute. "David, love is important, but marriage is about more than just love. It's about family, faith, and tradition. You have to think about the future. What will be your children's belief? How will your families come together?" David didn't have all the answers, but he knew that his feelings for Amina were real. "I don't know, Mom. I just want a chance to figure it out." Olufunke sighed, placing her hand gently on his arm. "David, I understand that you care about this girl, but our family has a legacy to protect. There are expectations, not just from us, but from the community. I want you to think long and hard about this before making any decisions." David nodded, knowing that his mother's concerns were valid. His family was well respected in the Christian community, and any relationship he pursued would be closely scrutinized. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that Amina was the person he was meant to be with. Meanwhile, in Kano, Amina was facing her own challenges. Her mother had begun to notice her distance and the way she seemed preoccupied. One evening, as they sat together in the courtyard of their home, Zainab finally asked her daughter what was troubling her. "Amina, you've been quiet lately. Is something on your mind?" Amina hesitated for a moment before speaking. "There's something I need to tell you, Mama. I've met someone from Lagos." Zainab frowned slightly. "Lagos? Who is this person?" "His name is David," Amina replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's a Christian." Zainab's eyes widened in shock. "A Christian? Amina, do you know what you're saying? Our family will never accept this. Your father will never allow it." Amina knew her mother would react this way, but hearing the words still felt like a blow to her heart. She had anticipated this moment for weeks, dreading the inevitable confrontation between her love for David and the deep-rooted traditions of her family. "I understand, Mama," Amina said softly, "but David is a good man. He's respectful of our faith, and he shares many of the same values we hold dear. He isn't asking me to change who I am or what I believe." Zainab shook her head, her expression a mix of disbelief and concern. "Amina, you're young, and I know you think this is love, but you don't understand the consequences. What will people say? What will your father say? This could bring shame to our family." Amina felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, determined to remain strong. "Mama, I know it's difficult, but times are changing. We can't always live in fear of what others will say. David and I, we want to find a way to honor both of our cultures, both of our faiths. I'm not asking to abandon our traditions, but I also don't want to abandon my feelings." Zainab sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her daughter's words heavy on her heart. She loved Amina deeply and wanted nothing but happiness for her, but she also understood the cultural and religious pressures that surrounded them. Finally, she spoke, her voice tinged with sadness. "I don't know how this will end, Amina. You know your father's expectations, and I fear that he will not be as understanding as I am." Amina nodded, knowing that her mother's warning was true. Her father, Alhaji Muhammad Bello, was a traditional man with strong principles. The idea of his daughter marrying a Christian, especially a Yoruba from the south, would be seen as a betrayal of everything he held dear. But Amina also knew that she could not ignore her feelings for David.